It is a sweltering summer evening. The house feels stuffy and cramped, and you have a fan positioned in the window, attempting to cool the space down. However, here is the reality. That fan is likely doing much less than you imagine, because most folks set up a fan in precisely the incorrect manner, and the air hardly circulates through the house at all. There is a right way and a wrong way to position a fan to move air through your home, and the correct method will surprise you, as it is the opposite of what most folks do. Today, I am going to demonstrate how to truly circulate the air through your house and cool it down with a fan and without one, the way folks did long before there was a humming air conditioner in every window. I maintain my place the old way, with no connection to the public power company. Consequently, I have spent my entire life keeping a house cool through the summer heat without the grid air conditioning that others run all season. We utilize the windows, the night air, the shade, the way the house itself breathes, and yes, a modest fan or two powered by the sun from my own solar batteries to assist the air along. Over the years, I have learned, and people who have measured these things carefully have proven, that there are some plain surprising truths about how to move air through a house that nearly everyone gets wrong. So let me share them with you. Let me tell you about summers in my grandfather's house, for it is where I learned all of this. That old house had no machine to cool it, of course, and yet it remained bearable through the worst July heat, cooler inside than out. And as a boy, I never thought to wonder how. It was my grandfather managing the house, though I did not realize it then. In the evening, he would throw open every window and door to the cooling night, and early in the morning, before I was even awake, he had already gone around and shut the house up tight against the approaching heat and pulled the shades on the sunny side. The house retained the cool of the night right through the hot afternoon that way. He had a feel for the air, for where it moved and how, which window to open to bring a breeze clear through the house on a still day. He never measured a thing, nor read it in a book. He just knew it, handed down, the way a man knows his own land. Most of what I'm about to tell you is his knowledge, proven since by people who measured it carefully with their instruments and found the old man was right all along. The old methods my family uses involve more than can fit in any single video. I have gathered the entirety of it into a collection. That is the long version. Here is the first truth, and it is the significant one, the one that turns what most folks do right on its head. When you put a fan in a window to cool the house, you should set it to blow the air out the window, not in. Blow out, not in. Now that sounds backwards, I know, for most folks point the fan inward to blow that nice outside air onto themselves. But here is why blowing out's superior. A house is a closed box with the air in it, and to cool it, you want to move that entire body of air through and out and pull fresh air in to replace it. When you set a fan in one window, blowing the stale, warm inside air out, it draws fresh, cooler air in through your other open windows and doors to take its place. And so you move the air through the whole house, a real current flowing through every room. The fan blowing out is the engine that pulls the fresh air through the entire house, whereas a fan blowing in just pushes air at the one spot in front of it and stirs the room, but does far less to move the whole body of air through. So if you have a fan in a window, turn it around and blow the hot air out, and let the house draw its fresh air in through the far windows. That one change moves more air through your house than anything. And here is the practical way to do it correctly. You want the fan blowing out in the window on the hot side, or the downwind side, the side the air would naturally want to leave by, and your other windows open on the far and cooler and shadier side of the house, so the fresh cool air is drawn in from the shade and the warm stale air pushed out. Think of the fan not as a thing that blows cool air on you, but as a pump that pulls the whole house's air through and out. Set it to pull. Give the fresh air a clear way in on the other side, and the whole house breathes. Here's the second truth, and it is just as surprising. You should not jam the fan right up tight against the window screen. Pull it back a foot or two from the window, about 2 feet, and it actually moves more air, not less. Now that makes no sense at first. You would think the closer to the window, the better. But here is the reason, and it is clever once you see it. A fan does not only blow air forward out its front, around its edges, it is pulling air in from the front sides too. So when you shove a fan right up against the window screen blowing out, It is at the very same time sucking some of that outside air back in around its edges, working against itself, pulling back in some of what it just blew out. Pull the fan back a couple feet from the window, and it draws its air cleanly from the room behind it and pushes it all out the window, no longer fighting itself. People who measured this carefully found the airflow climbs as you pull the fan back from the window, up to about 2 feet, and past that, it makes little difference. So set your window fan blowing out, but back it off about 2 feet from the window. There is no need to go further than that couple of feet, mind. For past about 2 feet, it makes little more difference. So 2 feet back is the sweet spot. Far enough that it is not fighting itself, no further needed. Two simple changes. Turn it to blow out and pull it back 2 feet, and you have likely doubled the air moving through your house with the very same fan you already had, set the very same place, just turned around and backed off. That is the whole beauty of it. It costs you nothing, not a cent, just knowing. And here is the third truth, which follows from the first two, and will save you money besides. It is not the size of the fan that matters most. It is where you put it. Folks think they need a great big fan to move air, and they jam it in the window. But a small, ordinary fan set back the right couple of feet and blowing out will move as much air through your house as a great big box fan shoved up against the window. The big fan jammed in the window is fighting itself, sucking back its own air around the edges, while the little fan placed right does its job clean. So you do not need to go buy the biggest fan, nor run a great power-hungry thing. A modest fan well placed does the work, which means less money spent and less power drawn, whether you run it off the grid or, as I do, off the sun. Now there is one kind of fan I will warn you about for this particular job, and that is the oscillating fan, the kind that turns its head back and forth, sweeping the room. That kind is poor at pulling air through a window. The reason is that such a fan draws its air in from all sides at once, all around it, rather than pulling it from any one direction. So it is no good at drawing the air specifically from behind it and out the window. For sweeping a breeze across a room where you sit, the oscillating fan is fine and pleasant. But for the job of moving the whole body of air through the house and out a window, you want a plain fan that pushes steady in one direction, set back from the window blowing out. Use the right fan for the job. But now here's the truth that matters most of all, and it is the one dearest to my heart, for it costs nothing and needs no fan at all. If there is even a light breeze blowing outside, you are far better off to simply open all your windows and let that breeze blow through than to run any fan at all. For the free wind that the Lord sends moving across your house will move more air, cooler air, than any fan you could buy or run. A fan moves a little air in one room. A cross breeze through an open house moves the whole air of the place freely, silently, for nothing. So before you ever reach for the fan, open up your house and feel for the breeze. Open windows on opposite sides of the house so the breeze blows in one side and out the other, a cross draft straight through. And you will cool the place better than any machine. And there is a knack to it that doubles its effect. The breeze comes in the windows on the side, the wind blows from and leaves by the windows on the far side. Now here's the trick. If you open a big wide window on the side, the breeze enters, but only a smaller opening on the side it leaves. The air must squeeze to get out, and squeezing it speeds it up. So it rushes through faster and cools you better, the way a river runs fast where its bed narrows. So a wide way in and a narrower way out makes a brisk, cooling draft. And open the inside doors between the rooms so the breeze can run clear through the whole house and not be stopped at one room. A house thrown open right to a good cross breeze is the coolest and pleasantest thing there is on a summer day, and it costs not a penny. And that brings me to the older wisdom still. The way the old people cooled a house through a hot summer with no fan and no power at all, just by knowing how air moves. For air has its ways, and if you understand them, you can work them. Hot air rises always, and cool air sinks and settles low. So on a hot, still day, if you open a low window down at the bottom of the house and a high window up at the top, a window upstairs or up high, the hot air rises and flows out the high window, and that draws cool air in the low window to replace it, A natural current flowing up through the house with no fan at all, just the natural rising of the warm air pulling the cool up after it. The old, tall houses with their high windows and their cupolas knew this, drawing the heat up and out the top all on its own. The old barns are built on the very same notion, with their high vents up in the peak that let the hot air rise up out of the haymow and draw cool air in below, keeping the barn and the stock cooler with no power at all, just the natural rising of the warm air. You can work the same in your own house, opening a high window or an attic vent up top and a low window down below, and let the heat chimney its way up and out, pulling the cool up after it. The taller the distance between your low opening and your high one, the stronger that natural draft pulls. So an upstairs window paired with a downstairs one works better than two on the same floor. And here the heart of the old way of cooling a house, the rhythm of the day that the old people lived by, opening and closing the house to the cool and the heat. Through the night, when the outside air is cool, you open the house up wide, all the windows, and let that cool night air pour in and fill the house and soak into the very walls and floors, cooling the whole house down through the night. Then, and this is the part folks forget, in the morning before the day heats up, you close the house up tight, shut the windows and draw the shades, trapping all that cool night air inside and shutting the hot day out. A house closed up against the day's heat, full of the cool of the night, stays cool and shaded right through the hot afternoon while the world bakes outside. Then at evening, when it cools again outside, you open it all back up. Cool it by night, close it by day. That simple rhythm kept houses bearable through the worst heat for generations before there was any other way, and it still works, and it costs nothing. The reason it works so well is that a house is not just the air in it, but the very walls and floors and furniture, all of which hold the cool or the heat like a stone holds it. Fill the house with cool night air long enough, and that coolness soaks into the walls and the floors themselves, the heavy mass of the house, and then, through the hot day, those cooled walls and floors give their coolness back into the rooms, keeping the place cool for hours after you have shut the windows. That is why a thick-walled old stone house or a deep cellar stays so cool. The heavy mass holds the cool. So the longer and wider you open to the cool night, the deeper that cool soaks in, and the longer your closed house stays cool the next day. And it is the cool of the deep night in the early morning, just before dawn, that is coolest of all. So do not close up too early. Let that coolest air of the small hours fill the house right up to morning before you shut it. And do not forget the shade and the sun, for a house heats most through its windows where the sun pours in. So you shade the windows, the sun strikes with shades or curtains drawn, or better still with an awning or a tree or a vine outside the window that stops the sun before it ever reaches the glass. The old people planted a shade tree on the hot side of the house, the west and the south, knowing it would shade the house from the worst of the afternoon sun for 100 years. Keep the sun off your windows, and you keep a great deal of heat out of your house before it ever gets in. It is far easier to keep the heat out than to chase it back out once it is in. So the shade is worth more than any amount of fanning after. A vine grown up over a sunny porch or window, the old climbing things that leaf out thick in summer and drop their leaves in winter, is the cleverest of all, for it shades you in the heat and then lets the sun back through in the cold when you want it. The old people planted with that in mind, a leafy shade for summer that bared itself for winter's sun. Now let me say the small, honest word about who profits from your not knowing these plain things about moving air, not to rile you up just so you see the shape of it. There is a great deal of money in keeping folks cool in the air conditioners and the power to run them all summer long. A power bill that climbs and climbs through the hot months. And there is no money at all in a man knowing how to place a fan right, or open his windows to the night breeze, or shade his house, or work the natural rising of the air, all of which cool a house for little or nothing. So nobody advertises the free ways. No business is built on teaching you to open your windows rightly. And these plain old ways of keeping cool simply fell out of the common knowing while the humming machines got all the telling. I am not saying a man schemed this. No one had to. It is worse than a conspiracy because it is a system nobody had to coordinate. It simply pays to sell the machine and the power to run it and pays nothing to teach a body to cool his house with the night air and a well-placed fan. And so the old freeways went quietly untaught. The old people cooled their houses through brutal summers with none of it because they had to, and they knew how air moves. So there is the whole of it. If you must use a fan in a window, blow the air out, not in, to pull the fresh air through the whole house. Pull that fan back about 2 feet from the window, not jammed against it, for it moves more air backed off. Know that placement beats size. A small fan placed right beats a big one jammed in the window. Use a plain, steady fan, not the oscillating kind, for moving air through a window. But best of all, when any breeze blows, forget the fan and open your house to the cross draft for free and cool your house the old way. Besides opening to the cool night and closing against the hot day, working the rising of the warm air and shading your windows from the sun. Do those things and you will keep a house cool through the summer for a fraction of what the machine costs or for nothing at all. Now, I want to hear from you. And I ask honest because I learned the whole country from these comments. Tell me in the comments below, how do you keep your house cool in the summer? And will you try turning that window fan around to blow out? And tell me your county and your climate, because the heat and the night cooling differ greatly across the country. The dry places cooling off hard at night and the humid places staying warm. And I like to map it by where you all write from. I read everyone. Next time, I want to show you more of the old ways to cut your cooling and your power bills down through the summer. The plain, cheap things the old people did to keep cool and keep their costs near nothing. For there is a great deal a body can do to live cool and cheap if he knows the old ways. The old people kept their houses bearable through the hottest summers with no machine and no power bill. Just by knowing how the air moves and how to work the cool of the night in the shade of a tree. Plain knowing that costs them nothing. There is a quiet freedom in being able to cool your own house with the wind and the night and your own two hands, rather than a humming machine and a climbing bill. The house cooled by the night breeze, and a knowing hand is the house that remembers how the old people kept cool. The people who built this country with their hands knew that, and we are only just starting to remember it. If this story changes the way you look at the summer heat and the simple tools in your home, please subscribe and like the channel. We are unearthing the history and wisdom they tried to bury. Let's cultivate a cooler future together. The next treasure of old world knowledge will be open soon.